This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com/psychetruth.
Hi guys, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be doing a massage for my husband Lee, and we're going to be doing an upper back massage, and I'm going to dive right in. So I really like to start with compressions before I go in with my oil a lot of the time. It's just a nice way to kind of introduce your touch and also kind of get a better idea of what's going on with your client. Not doing anything fancy here, just working my way into this trapezius a little bit and seeing how everything feels. I like to start with a more broad pressure and then kind of go in with something more detailed. And a pincer grasp is a great way if you're doing trap work, especially. It's just a great warm-up technique before adding any oil. So just grabbing hold of these, the upper trap and the levator, and just squeezing. If you only have like 5 minutes with somebody who's struggling with upper back pain or shoulder pain, this is an excellent way to increase circulation. Get some fresh blood in here. So with this pincer grasp, you just want to be careful of pinching skin. You want to make sure that you're directly on muscle. You don't really have to worry about it till the end. And I'm going to go ahead and go in with some more specific compression work. I just really like using my forearm for this kind of work. It can feel kind of awkward to start a massage like this. I just like to do something, you know, from this side of the table where I can really do something not specific. Just getting my client used to my touch a little bit. But I'm being careful of using too much pressure here. I'm just trying to warm up everything. So I'm not using my elbow as much as like, you know, maybe a third of my forearm as I work my way around the scapula. And when I do upper back work, I do like to include working these erector muscles as well, just because it's also connected. So with these erector muscles, I'm working my way in towards the spine. I'm not really pressing like down as much as in. The one thing you do need to be careful of when you're working like this is that you have a wide enough stance so that you're not arching or collapsing in your low back rather. So you want to be working from your core, have a nice neutral position in that spine. And just a brief warm up on this side. Doing the same thing. I'm kind of throwing that erector work in after I get a better idea of this trap, this upper trap. And again, just working my way in towards the spine, not just pressing down on these erector spinae. And I talk a lot in my videos about working organically, so, just because you went, you did 2 passes on this side doesn't mean you have to do it the exact same way on the opposite side. Sometimes the hardest part for me is like scaling back and not going in too quickly with deep tissue, especially when I'm using my forearm and my elbow. This is really a nice way to warm up too without oil, because I have a really nice firm grip on the skin, so I'm not sliding around a whole lot. Really focusing on the spot around the scapula can be a trigger point for source of tension for a lot of people. And I'm going to go in with my oil. I'm going to include the lats a little bit, this massage. I remember a male therapist that I used to work on, he was so precise in his work that sometimes he would, I remember getting a massage from him and he would spend like a full hour just on this tiny little section. And sometimes that can be really effective, but I feel the most comfortable with kind of working broadly and then working in a more detailed way, and I just think it feels better. It's more effective for me, the way that I work. So just including these erector spinae as I work my way into the trap. And just really getting a pretty good sense of what's going on from right to left at this point. I think the lats are one of the most overlooked muscles sometimes. When I'm doing upper back work, I do like to include the lats. Even if it's something as simple as this technique of just scooping. Petrissage is another technique that can feel really good in the lats. It requires a little bit more effort, I think. This is nice because I can literally use Lee's body and just pull against it. I need to get a little bit more oil. If you notice that your client's skin is just like drinking up the medium that you're using, it might mean that they're a little dehydrated. It's a good time to tell your client to drink more water. There's like, little fun ways that you can include the lats in your routine without making it something that takes much effort. And just using the forearms, working laterally is can feel really nice. I'm gonna work my way into these rhomboids a little bit. Whenever you're working along the spine, you need to feel really stable. So just make sure that your stance is nice and wide and your spine is neutral. If you're collapsing through your shoulders, it can put a lot of strain on your shoulder joints and your back, and it's just not a healthy way to do this kind of work. And I'm going to go ahead and go in with a similar routine that I did with our warm-up. I'm finally going to start doing a little bit of deep tissue work. It's a lot easier to work in towards the spine when you're working on the erector spinae. If you feel like you're kind of slipping off, it's a sign that you need to kind of move to the side a little bit more and work in. I love working along the erector spinae with my forearm like this because I feel like really stable. I have a lot of control. Really, my main focus today is this trapezius. And I'm going to do quite a bit of trigger point around the scapula, but I like to work my way up to it. I've, gone through periods where I worked really aggressively, kind of like a rolfing technique where you just kind of work your way through the muscle. But I like to use a little bit more finesse. I just think I'm able to make more progress with my clients. I think trigger point is one of the best techniques for releasing tension in the trapezius. And I recommend doing trigger point with using this technique, trying to use the thumbs for 10 minutes straight, on each side can be pretty tiring. So if you're having trouble accessing that upper trap, you might want to try just creating a little more space. So just bringing that arm down a little bit and making sure that the elbow is bent so you don't put any strain on those joints in there. And just a little bit more work in here. Usually hold trigger points for 5 to 10 seconds. And I think I will do a little bit of infraspinatus work, just working on one of these muscles in the rotator cuff. If you're finding a lot of tension in that upper trap, there's a really good sign that this muscle on top of the scapula is tight too. So, because I haven't really warmed up this area yet, I'm gonna just do something really basic with my thumb, just making sure that muscle knows I'm there. You can also use the heel of your hand. Doesn't have to be fancy. And I'm just gonna do a little bit of trigger point in here. And I'm just gonna hold for 5 seconds. And just like any other body part, I like to spread out these holds, so just giving the muscle a little break in between. Also gives my thumb a break. You could do this with your elbow. I find it to be a little harder, really be super accurate. And just one more hold here. And I'm going to do that same routine on the left. All right, and I think I am going to have to move this shoulder down a little bit. And it's funny how like just doing that one thing can make your whole massage go way smoother. All right, so I am going to pay some attention to this erector spinae. It's not the main focus today, but and I'll usually work on the muscles along the spine, the rhomboids, and then the trapezius. I find that it's working in that order is just really effective. And I am definitely guilty of not using a super wide stance, so just constantly reminding myself to feel really comfortable as I work and strong as I work. And finally, I'm going to work my way into this trap, doing some trigger point in here. And instead of just at the end of those 5 or 10 seconds, instead of just like picking my shoulder up, I like to continue the motion into that muscle. And I would never do this kind of work without a really good warm-up. Because if you try to do deep tissue on an area that's not ready for it, is not good. And if I wanted to do deep tissue on the levator more, I would work from a different angle. I'm not too focused on that today. And this is a really nice position if you're trying to do trigger point in the infraspinatus, just because kind of opens up this muscle a little more. So just a very simple little warm up before doing any trigger point in here. Sometimes with my non-dominant hand, I feel like I have to focus a little bit harder or something when I'm doing this kind of work. I'm always really selective how much work I do with my thumb. But the infraspinatus is one muscle that I really love using my thumb on. You can bet if the muscles around the scapula are tight, the muscles on top of it are going to be really tight too. Just a good thing to keep in mind. And in between that more focused work, I like to do something just broad that feels nice. And I am going to work my way into the levator muscles a little bit more. Got a really good angle for it. So you can certainly do this on the right and left at the same time, but it's a little bit, just requires a little bit more focus. So I kind of like to just let Lee know where I'm headed, and then I'll kind of go in with one elbow at a time. And really using my elbow, get into the top of that shoulder. This is some combination of trigger point and deep tissue. Working my way really slowly across that levator muscle. And I might alternate sides if there's a lot of sensitivity in there. This is a much easier angle to work as opposed to trying to get into this muscle from the side of the table. And don't expect each side to feel the same. There's likely one side that's going to be tighter. You could also do this with your thumb, but it would be a lot harder. And I'd say, like, when you're doing massage, don't worry about being perfect. Like, just being present and mindful is more than enough. So after doing something with my elbow, sometimes I will go in for some fine tuning. And I'm actually going to go ahead and move Lee's arms back. Honestly, should have done that before I did that elbow work, but still got some good work done in there. So I'm just exposing these muscles a little bit more. And yeah, just fine-tuning a little bit. And yeah, just fine-tuning a little bit. The levator is one muscle that responds really well to constant pressure. You can just hold it. You can feel like a huge release when you let go. But be kind to your thumbs when you're working. I really like to just go along the spine and here. Along this upper track can feel really nice. You can go all the way into the neck if you want. I usually change positions and techniques because it's easier. But you can also do little circles. I more often than not end my massage with some fascial work, just encouraging this connective tissue along the spine to stretch a little bit. And stacking my hands so I can offer a little bit more pressure, but I'm not trying to do anything deep, just firm. Fascial work is not about like doing, it's not deep tissue, it's connective tissue. It's a whole different way of working. And it's actually a good sign if you feel your client's skin warming up and getting a little bit red. And I just want to thank a few of our patrons. I'd like to thank Natalie Kotovich, Charles Akik, and Quentin Richardson. I hope that I got all of your names right. And I just want to thank you guys so much for your support. And just one last little run along the spine here before calling it a day. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you for joining us today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.